this point, we're ready to start pulling down on the assembly. Now I'm going to get on the side here with a flat tip screwdriver, start doing a little bit of prying. This assembly is just going to drop straight down. There we go. That's the old one, and I'll go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison with the new one. Now this is the Dorman kit, 924-704. Now when you open up the kit, this is what you're going to find inside. You're going to find a repair kit right here, the piece that we're going to be replacing. Inside you're going to have a set of instructions, and also you're going to have a spring, the same spring that was holding that cover on. This is what we got right here. Now it comes with a set of instructions. Now the instructions aren't how to remove the assembly, it's just some key things to pay attention to. Everything from how to make sure that brass piece is lined up like I mentioned, to also the alignment marks that I mentioned. So read through them, make sure everything lines up good and everything is the way it's supposed to be before you go back. Like I said, these aren't the instructions on how to remove it, it's just basically what to watch for when you're reinstalling it. Alright, so here's the old one right here. Let's look at it. You can actually see where the aluminum is broke off on this side. We've only got that one little edge over here that still got it. The rest of it had just completely broke off. And here's your new replacement one I showed you earlier. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to go all the way around. Now the instructions Dorman gives you is to make sure that this brass piece is situated just like you see here. It's got to be oriented perfectly like this before you go back. And another thing they recommend so that you have a little ease in lining up the ignition switch and the key cylinder is right here. You see two arrows, black arrow and it's more like a gray / white arrow. They want you to line both of those up before you go back in with it. So now we're ready to go back to the vehicle, push this up towards the steering column, and then we'll use the spring and plate. Now the Dorman kit actually comes with another spring as well, so we'll be using that. But here's your bad one. Like I said, this is what happens when it breaks. You no longer have your start position on your ignition switch, and that's your replacement. And when you go back with that lower piece of that spring, the spring, like I said, lines up with this square peg, so technically it would be like this. In theory, that's the way it's going to go back on. Now there's one little thing you got to watch out for when you lower this. There's a small aluminum piece right here. You don't want to lose that. That goes down in that little recess right there. And what that's for is a shift interlock cable. Once the shift interlock cable's in there, it comes up, makes contact with the cams on this cylinder here. If you do not have that in there, your shift interlock's not going to work. You'll be able to take it out of gear without the key being in. Bad thing. So definitely when you're taking this out of the car or whatever, try not to lose that piece. It's real small. But definitely it's reinstalled correctly. You can't mess it up. Just line that up with the slot, drop it down in there. Like I said, now all you got to do is put the spring in here and make sure it lines up with that. Let's go ahead and move it over to the car. At this point we're going to get the replacement assembly that we've got lined up by the marks. We're just going to slide it straight up in here. Once it's fully seated, it's pretty tight to stay in there by itself. Now what we'll do is we'll make sure the alignment marks still line back up again because we can see them from the side here. We'll get our cover and our spring. We'll put the spring inside the cover. It lines up, that spring goes directly on that raised square. It's going to be going right there. Same thing with the cover, it's got a recessed hole. We'll put that on there and then we'll start pushing upward and lining everything up. Now what we got to do is put the two tamper-proof T10s back up in here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and reconnect the clock spring connector. I'll just push it up in here, reseat it, press in on this primary lock. Now we can start worrying about putting the electrical portion on as well as the key cylinder. Now we'll go ahead and jump over to the key cylinder first. Now the key cylinder, remember, we got to be able to push in on this raised area right here for it to go down in there, so we've got to turn the key. Once we can turn it, we can now press in on the assembly. Now it'll slide up inside the housing. So we'll just come to the side, push it down in there, make sure the key's working good, and now we can move on to the shift interlock cable. The reason why we need key cylinder is because we've got to be able to turn the key before we can slide this up in there and lock it in place. So let's rotate the key, grab your shift interlock cable, position it and route it right through the housing, slide it up in there until it fully snaps. Tug on it, make sure it's still there. Now we make sure the key's working fine. Key's coming in, key's going out. Awesome. Now we'll move on to the electrical portion. When we go back to the ignition switch, we want to make sure that the keyed hole is going to be lining up with the portion here. So we're going to take a quick look. We're going to orientate it the way it's supposed to be. We're going to look up here and see how it is. If we need to, we're going to rotate the ignition switch until it pretty much lines up with the way this is, because once we slide it down on there, we're going to use a little bit of force to snap it on. We don't want to break anything. Now, right before we do that, we're going to plug in the connectors. We got our chime for the key in, and then we got the electrical connector right here, the main one. Press in on the locks. Alright, with the connectors installed, we'll go ahead and guide the plastic piece in through first. Make sure that the ignition switch looks like it's still fairly lined up. We'll go ahead and try to get it as straight as possible. Once you get it close enough, just push down until it's fully seated. Now all we gotta do is put that tamper-proof T10 back in there. So just tighten down on that Torx. Now we've replaced the mechanism in between that broke off the aluminum piece. We've got the electrical portion now hooked on, and we get the key cylinder in. Now we want to make sure everything's working fine, so we're going to go ahead and test it before we put the shrouds back on. Go ahead and put the key in, see if it starts. Vehicle cranked up, awesome. Let's go ahead and check the operation of the shift interlock. Key comes back out. Shifter doesn't move when it's not supposed to. We should be fine then. So there you go. An aftermarket manufacturer made a repair piece. So you don't have to replace the entire assembly. You save well over $1,000. I mean, what's wrong with that? Takes about an hour to do. Anybody can do it. Just make sure you get those tamper-proof Torx fixed. You're gonna have to have those. Otherwise, follow the instructions I've given you, as well as the instructions that Dorman gave you in the kit when you purchased it, and you shouldn't have any problems. So at this point, ask for any kind of thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and you can check me out on Instagram as well. If you got any comments about this video or anything Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram related, please feel free to email me at david@motorcitymechanic.com, and I will try to get back to you in a timely manner. Once again, thanks for watching these videos.